What's up, everybody? I'm here with Neil from Wild Kingdom, and today we're talking medicinal mushrooms. Everything from chaga to reishi, turkey tail, and lion's mane. We're gonna cover the gamut here with the forager himself, Neil. So stick around. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into mushrooms.
So I'm Neil, founder of Wild Kingdom. And how I got into herbs and foraging mushrooms was when I started my journey of health and wellness. I started taking all of these herbs and mushrooms and powders that I was putting into my smoothies. I was very passionate about that at the time, and I'm just a very curious person, so I started researching where they came from, what the traditions behind them was, and a lot of the research kind of pointed to, these still exist today out in the wild, in forests in North America. And growing up in rural Pennsylvania, I was just a nature person, and I'd go out to go hiking, and I would, see the turkey tail mushroom, I would see the chaga mushroom, or I would see, like East Coast sorrel or other herbs. And at first I was a little apprehensive. We kind of live in this modern society where wild food's kind of dangerous. There's bugs on it. There's dirt. But I kept going with it, and I got to a point where my curiosity was just all right, I'm going to pick it, try it, and started doing that, and then turned that into crafting my own extracts because when I was taking these powders and other extracts, I was racking up a pretty nice bill, and I started doing it myself. I started feeling the same effects. I started sharing it with friends, and everyone was just kind of encouraging me to start a company, do my own thing, and it's kind of led me to where I am today.
Cool. And how long have you been doing it, would you say?
The company, we launched May 16th of 2019, so just a couple of months, but I've been foraging for almost 10 years now.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I read you had a music background?
Yeah. Growing up, my two passions were always music and food and nutrition. Mm-hmm. So I started working as a prep cook in different local restaurants and things like that while I was pursuing music. And in my early 20s, I kind of, just by chance, stumbled upon a health and wellness company that needed someone with food background, and just kind of got me involved I made a shift into the world of health and wellness and food operations, things like that. So it kind of got me here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So walk us through the process of foraging to production. What does that look like? What's your timeline?
Cool, yeah. So foraging is an all year round activity. So the first thing you need to know is when the mushrooms you're after grow. So as an example, reishi mushroom is a summer perennial. So it grows between May and early August. So using that one as an example, I'll go start to just scope out some spots that I know that they grow, check on the growth. And what I'm looking for is checking that they've sporulated, because if you harvest a mushroom after it's sporulated, you're no longer interfering with its natural life cycle. And very soon after it sporulates, bugs and bacteria will start feeding on that mushroom fruiting body. So you kind of have to have this intricate connection and anticipation of when to act. So once the mushroom's sporulated, we'll go and harvest it. And then from there, we go through a drying process. And that's really important because a lot of other mushroom products out there are kind of boasting a 10-to-1 extraction, when the 10 is supposed to signify the dry weight of a mushroom or herb, and the 1 is supposed to signify the wet weight. So if you're doing an extraction with a mushroom that's not dried, mushrooms are 80% water. You're not getting a high enough potency as you think you are. So we dry the mushrooms, use a high-powered grinder to turn them into a powder, and then what we do is we very similarly to making cold brew coffee, we run organic grape alcohol through the mushrooms, through the powder, and what that does is extracts all the alcohol-soluble nutrients. So those are things like terpenes, acids, other anti-inflammatory compounds. And we'll do that, set that aside, and then take that same powder and extract it in boiling water to do a water decoction. And that's going to extract all the immune boosting and modulating polysaccharides, some of the prebiotics, a whole different set of nutrients than the alcohol, and then the finished product is those two extractions combined together, and that makes the dual extract. So if you were to just make a tea, you'd be missing out on the anti-inflammatory compounds, and if you just did a alcohol tincture, you'd be missing out on the immune boosting stuff. So the two together gives you all the nutrients.
Synergistic effect.
Yeah.
So from start to finish, how long would you say that takes? Like for a reishi?
Yeah, so once the mushroom's dried and turned into a powder, it's about a 3-day turnaround. The process we use is very quick when you turn it into a powder. Like an example of something else would be like the folk method, where people just take the mushrooms, break them into pieces, and soak them in alcohol for like 4 weeks. This process is much faster and much more effective. You can better concentrate the mushrooms. You use everything that's available.
So tell us a little bit why someone would want to choose an extract form of mushrooms over a powder form.
So I think the main reason for choosing an extract is it's more versatile. You don't need to put it in a smoothie, you don't need to put in water, but you can. So it's kind of your always on the go ally that you can just take whenever you want. And then some things to be careful with extract powders or mushroom powders is that a lot of times people will just take the mushroom, so let's say chaga, they'll grind it into a powder, package it, and say this is chaga powder. The only thing with that is that the mushroom is very concentrated in compounds called chitin, which are very hard to digest, and they kind of protect the medicinal compounds, and your body does a very poor job of extracting the medicinal compounds while that chitin is still not broken down. So that's something you want to avoid because there's just a loss of nutrition and it's not very bioavailable. The other option is to take an extract powder, which the mushroom has been extracted in alcohol and water, and then the water and alcohol have been burned off. Some of the things with that is when you do that process, it goes into a big spray dryer. It's about like 10 feet tall, requires a lot of energy to do, creates a lot of heat. And when the extract passes through that heat, there's a loss of flavor and a loss of other compounds that are heat sensitive in the extract. So to give you an example of this, an extract powder I took for many years was ashwagandha. And I always said, wow, this tastes very weird, but it's an herb, okay? And then when I started getting exposed to other companies that did extract powders, I realized they all tasted the same. And I was kind of shocked. I said, oh, wow, like what's going on there? And then when I actually worked for different health and wellness supplement companies that did the spray drying process, I realized that was the same taste no matter what you spray dried. And I think that's an important aspect to taking an extract or supplement or an herb that's more food geared. Because your body has some kind of like energetic response to what you're tasting, and it's kind of the signal of, okay, I'm taking in something that's familiar, and it's kind of like preparing your body. So that's one thing, is it's very hard to tell with your taste buds how the quality of the extract is, and with the heat, there's a loss of nutrients. And then from there, like I mentioned before, I don't want to put that powder like in water or something that's like not a smoothie where I could taste it because it's just kind of unpleasant. So those are the reasons.
And there's maybe a potency difference between the two?
Yeah, for sure.
You need a lot more powder than you would your extract, right?
Yeah, so when you're removing the water, you're basically getting just solid particles, and you need, to get the same dosage, you would need more of the powder. And then plus the heat transfer, there might be a loss of nutrients there or other compounds that they don't test for.
So this is going to be fun. Walk us through the different mushroom is it species?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So walk us through the different mushroom species that you forage, and tell us a little bit about what they do for your body.
Sure, yeah. So I'll start with turkey tail because it's my favorite, and it was my first foraging experience. So turkey tail is still like up and coming. It's not quite in the mainstream. It's kind of like the unsung hero, but it's actually the most studied medicinal mushroom. So the most research has been done around that. It has a long history in Chinese medicine. And what turkey tail is really great for is the immune system. So if you're someone who has compromised immunity or is looking to take care of your immune system and just kind of stay healthy, turkey tail is the one to go to. It's really rich in these polysaccharides called PSK and PSP, which literally just go to your immune system and start upregulating all its production of white blood cells and other compounds that protect your body from microbes. So that's what I love about turkey tail. And then plus it's also acts as a prebiotic. So there's compounds in there that actually feed your microbiome, your gut bacteria, and then it makes them get excited and produce more medicinal compounds in your body. And it just kind of is like a wonderful orchestra of like reprogramming your immune system and boosting it. So that's what I love about turkey tail.
How often do you have to take turkey tail in order to kind of jumpstart those effects on say, your microbiome? Do you have to take it every day?
Yeah, so therapeutic dose once a day, somewhere between 200 and 500 milligrams is like really ideal. Our extracts are 333 milligrams. And it's more important to take less of something over a longer period of time because it gives your body a chance to really incorporate it into a normal situation. If you just took a bunch of it all at once, you probably won't get the same effects. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Let's move on to some of the other issues.
And then there's chaga, the king of medicinal mushrooms. And chaga is just amazing too because it's basically nature's #1 anti-inflammatory. People think about antioxidants in acai or blueberries or elderberry. Chaga is probably up to at least 5 times more concentrated in antioxidants. A lot of people are calling it the most antioxidant-rich food on the planet. So chaga is just a great ally if you are someone who suffers from chronic inflammation, whether that be autoimmune like arthritis or something like leaky gut or something like an injury. Chaga is just filled with these antioxidants that are free radical scavengers. So they go out throughout your body and just repair these free radicals, soothing the inflammation and just kind of giving you that support that your body needs. And then on top of that too, the immune boosting polysaccharides are also immune modulating in nature. So if you think of your immune system as like a radio and you're scanning for the right frequency, if you're autoimmune, let's say your immune system's working overtime, it's working too hard, it's attacking you, chaga can tune that frequency to bring it back down, bring it to normal function. And if you're someone with a weakened and compromised immune system, chaga will tune it back the other way. So that's really nice that there's some kind of like intelligence in the mushroom. And yeah, I take chaga and turkey tail every day. That's like my go-to.
Staples.
Yeah. And then there's reishi. They call it the queen of medicinal mushrooms. And there's a lot of science behind reishi. I think the best thing that reishi does is it increases your body's ability to absorb oxygen in the blood. So people with asthma or any kind of allergies or any kind of like cardiovascular issues, reishi just works beautifully to really open up the pathways for respiratory health, for heart health. It has lots of antibacterial and antimicrobial properties. People go as far to say it's a really good like performance enhancement mushroom because of that oxygen uptake. So like we were chatting before, like going on a run, you take some reishi, your body's increasing more oxygen, you're just going to be able to run harder for longer. So it's really nice. And then what reishi's been really celebrated for recently is its ability to help with sleep. And that's actually when I take reishi.
Same.
Yeah.
It works like a charm. It's better than melatonin.
It's creepy, yeah. It's the best thing by far that I've used that guarantees me sleep. And I notice when I don't take it, it's just, I don't get the same deep sleep. So why that happens is reishi has these compounds called triterpenoids. And I mentioned terpenes earlier, they're anti-inflammatory compounds. So these triterpenoids are a little more complex. And they're those compounds that are anti-inflammatory in nature and increase the oxygen uptake. They're basically like natural steroids. So they're just upregulating everything in your body and just allows it to like normalize cortisol levels, help with adrenal fatigue, and that just like sets you up for a nice, good night's sleep. So that one's really great.
And then let's talk about lion's mane.
Yeah.
That is my favorite one. Whenever I have a day at work where I'm like, I need to kick it into high gear and focus as much as I can, lion's mane is my go-to. But why?
Yeah.
Why does it work so well?
Yeah. So lion's mane, the scientific name for lion's mane is Hericium erinaceus. And why it's called that is
sounds like a Game of Thrones like character.
Definitely, yeah, rightfully so. So yeah, these compounds that it has in it are called erinacines, and these compounds promote brain growth, neuron repair, synapse repair, and it's the only non-psychedelic mushroom that can do that. So when you start to take lion's mane, it starts to feed the brain, it starts to heal inflammation in the brain, and when that starts to happen, the natural byproduct of that is increased focus, better memory, lifted brain fog. Lion's mane is something so dear to me because I was someone who was experiencing the neurological effects of Lyme. I would get these intense like pressure headaches in my forehead for like 4 years, and when I finally put two and together and got diagnosed with Lyme, I started taking lion's mane for the neurological effects, and it was a game changer. Also helped me with sleep too. I wouldn't be able to sleep with that pain, so lion's mane just like lifted that right out, and I take it regularly, and it just doesn't come back.
So I know that there are thousands of mushroom species out there, and we tend to only hear about like what I call the Fab Five, you know, the reishi, the turkey tail, lion's mane, chaga, and cordyceps. But are there any other mushrooms on the rise, or anything that you've discovered that you think could be really beneficial for people to look into?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think these 5 mushrooms have gotten so much hype because when you turn them into an extract form, they're so potent. And I think it's probably going to stay like that for a while, but what I would urge people to do is start exploring the wild foraged edible mushrooms, because essentially all mushrooms are medicinal. So this type of year, you can go out into the forest and find chicken of the woods, maitake, which is hen of the woods, lobster mushroom. It's kind of like a party right now, especially if you live in like the northern hemisphere and like near temperate forest. All of those mushrooms are very rich in all those compounds we talked about, and are bioavailable via eating. So, and they taste great. So, I wouldn't want to go make a extract of a chicken of the woods when I could just go eat it because it tastes pretty great. And I think what we're going to see is an increase of different like local restaurants really tapping into that. Even here in San Francisco, I went to a couple of restaurants and I got pasta with morels and porcini mushrooms, and I was blown away. So I think that's kind of the future.
So I know that sustainable harvesting is a core part of your mission. So talk a little bit about some specific practices that you do to follow sustainable harvesting.
Yeah, for sure. So number one is to not interfere with the life cycle of the mushroom. Let's say using turkey tails as an example. Turkey tails start to grow late summer, early fall, all through winter. And during, let's say, August, September, they're just starting to reach full maturity of the fruiting body, but they still have their spores. And essentially what a mushroom is, it's kind of like a flower or fruit that has a seed, which are the spores, and their mission is to go release that so they can reproduce. Underneath the mushroom is the mycelium, which is kind of like the roots that's orchestrating the whole process. And if you start to track turkey tails, you can see like white powder all around the turkey tails. And when you see that, that means that the spores have been released. And then the wind will start carrying the spores, and it will start to spread to other areas of the forest. Or if we start to go and forage and pick the spores, you can't see them readily. Some are microscopic. They're on your hands, on your feet, and you start to walk through the forest, and now you're a vehicle for their proliferation. So it's kind of this like beautiful dance. So understanding the ecology and the life cycle of the mushroom is number one. From there, it's good to be respectful to other organisms in the environment. So if we see a log with a nice flush of turkey tails, we might only want to harvest a third of that or up to 50% because bugs like slugs and bacteria who play an intricate part in the ecosystem as well will use those mushrooms as food. So it's good to leave that for them. So that's kind of number one. And then each mushroom kind of has their nuances on what's the best way to harvest. So chaga, for instance, if you cut into the birch tree to extract the whole chaga, you're really hurting that tree and leaving it susceptible to infection. So it's good to only harvest the outer portions of the chaga, so you're only cutting through the mushroom, not into the tree, so that there's no open wound and the chaga will actually grow back. And then reishi is a little different. Once it's sporulated, they usually grow in like big flushes, or one reishi mushroom is a good amount. So we could take up to 50%, and there's like minimal disruption to the landscape.
I have definitely experimented with lots of medicinal mushrooms, like I mentioned, lion's mane, reishi, and some days I really feel like a cognitive boost, but I know I've given it to a lot of people and they've said, well, I don't know if it's actually working. So what would you tell people who are just about to go experiment with mushrooms? How do you know if they're actually working?
Cool. Yeah, this is a really fun question.
Some like things that you pop a pill and you're like, okay, that cleared my headache.
Yeah.
But it might be a little bit different to.
Yeah. Before I say like how I notice, I'll give you the spectrum. So some people that try my mushrooms or having a conversation are very sensitive, and they say as soon as I take it, I feel an energy boost, and I think that's wonderful. And some people might be able to really tell. And then there's the opposite, where people, they take it and they're saying, oh, I don't know if I felt anything. I'll keep taking it, but what have you. I always tell people, if you start taking a mushroom extract, let's say after a couple of days, a week, 2 weeks, and you just notice that you have more energy, you have less brain fog, your digestion has improved, and you just overall feel a sense of emotional well-being, that's your indicator that it's working. Because the compounds in the mushrooms work on a cellular level. It's not something that's like a active drug or chemical that creates some kind of neurological effect or something like THC. So it kind of works in subtle ways, and it gives you an opportunity to kind of like make yourself more sensitive to what's going on in your body, and you can just get little hints along the way.
I mean, they always say like dose makes the poison. So is it, would you advise like if people aren't feeling any, changes in their body over the course of a week, would you say like increase the dosage, or can you ever take too much?
Yeah, I think your body will signal when you're taking too much. I think when you take too much of anything, your body just stops using it. So I like to say take our extract once a day because it's a very nice therapeutic dose. I say when you're sick or you feel like something's compromised, you can take it up to 3 to 5 times a day. And from there, I think taking it more than 5 times a day, is just a little excess because kind of what I said before is if you take less of something over longer periods of time, your body's really incorporating it into your, natural rhythm, and it's giving you a chance to really like make a relationship with it. But yeah, I do think dose is important, and definitely if you're not getting at least like 200 milligrams of a dose, you won't feel the therapeutic effects that are advertised from the mushroom.
Great. And in that same vein, can you maybe elaborate a little bit on the concept of adaptogen?
Yeah, so I think the word adaptogen was coined because any herb, mushroom, food that is an adaptogen helps your body adapt to stress. So technically all the medicinal mushrooms would be classified as adaptogens along with herbs like ashwagandha and like pine pollen, things like that. This is kind of like a complex topic because if you go all the way back to, let's say, indigenous times, these were people that were master botanists, and had connections with all these different plants, and their environment was always changing. Between the 4 seasons and then things like rain and storms, predators, what have you, all these different stresses are happening all at once. And these plants, the same thing is happening, and the plants are generating compounds that help themselves adapt to stress. So when they were eating this wide variety of these herbs, it would give their body the nutrition they need to offset the physical effects of the stress. So that's basically what an adaptogen does. And in our modern times, it's kind of funny, the stress, we kind of live in a very routine society, and it's very kind of like monocropped. What we're experiencing now is a lot of emotional stress, a lot of neurological stress, things we can't tangibly touch but are actually having a physical effect on our body. So the adaptogen provides us the nutrition to offset the physical effects. And it's something that me personally, I'm like very grateful that we've discovered that and that it's starting to come to the mainstream, because it really kind of repairs that separation from wild plants and modern living. So it's kind of nice it's making its way out there.
So Neil, tell us a little bit about what specific mushrooms or what products you have that would help with things like gut health.
Yeah, sure. So so many people were asking me for very targeted, they were asking for ways they could target certain conditions they were going through, and one being gut health. I started realizing that I could create a bundle for someone on our website so that they could target what they wanted to and kind of go from there. And for gut health, chaga and turkey tail make the most amazing duo of anything I've ever taken for gut. I've spent my whole life taking probiotics, and I never felt as good as when I took chaga and turkey tail together. And why that is because the anti-inflammatory compounds in chaga really help soothe the inflammation of the gut that's going on from the yeast, the candida, the bad bacteria, all that. And then the turkey tail is it's literally food for your beneficial bacteria. So they're getting everything they need. They're killing the bad bacteria. And then it just helps restore the microbiome. And then from there, there's all the other things it's doing for your immune system and doing for your joint health and things like that. So I was really comfortable with saying that's the best solution for gut health.
What about for a cognitive boost?
Yeah, so for cognition, I would definitely go with reishi and lion's mane. Lion's mane being the leader. But lion's mane having those erinacines that promote neuron and synapse repair is going to help you just lift that brain fog. It's going to help increase memory, focus. And then the reishi is just going to increase the oxygen that gets to your brain. It's going to give you those natural steroids that boost your energy, your endurance. So, and it's going to help with sleep. It's going to help you relax. So those two together, just wonderful recipe for anything with focus and brain.
And if you're planning to do, if you're an athlete or you're planning to do something that's you need an athletic edge, what would you recommend going to?
Yeah, chaga and reishi for that. Reishi is the greatest pre-workout because of those natural steroids, those triterpenoids. It's going to help with the endurance because it's increasing your body's ability to absorb oxygen. So that's nice for taking before your workout. And then, after your workout, your cortisol is elevated, inflammation is starting to happen in the body. You start taking chaga, and your body is now going to have so much more medicinal compounds available to help with the repair. It's going to help repair muscle, joints, ease the inflammation. It's going to keep your immune system, help drop the cortisol. So those two work together as awesomely as a pre and post workout.
Fantastic. Yeah, I personally tried that myself. I can attest. Let's dive into out of curiosity, what are some of the legal challenges of starting a company like this? Going from wandering in the forest, foraging mushrooms to then creating these extracts. Do you need to get certified? Are there any health code things that you have to look out for? Just kind of walk us through that whole process.
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. So technically, medicinal mushroom extracts fall under the FDA regulation. And working with the FDA is a little bit of a unique process. To create a product, you don't need to register with the FDA to launch a product, but you regardless have to follow their guidelines. So they have on their website, you can go and actually read articles and articles about the laws that were written to govern supplements. So what you need to do basically is follow all those guidelines. And it's interesting because some companies can go their whole lifespan without ever getting cracked down on the FDA, and others all of a sudden do. They're kind of a organization that has limited resources to police everybody. So yeah, I think it's really important to learn the practices of the companies you're taking and seeing how they take that to make sure that it's in line with what you're looking for. And for us, kind of what we were talking about before, like foraging seems like this scary thing. You're getting things from the wild and has this like bias if it's dirty and, you know. But luckily, when we produce our extracts, we actually get them third-party lab tested to prove that they're not contaminated by any pathogens, yeast, mold. And these are tests that are standard and required by the FDA. So you need to keep a document library of every batch that was produced, the results, and then over time, as you prove that you create these batches that don't have any contaminants, you are allowed to do less and less testing. And then from there, companies typically will just keep testing for potency. So that's one thing. So yeah, I actually had experience doing this for other supplement companies and health and wellness. So kind of already had those relationships set up when I went to go start the company. So that's baked into the process. We forage, we do our extraction process in a facility that meets the standards of the FDA. We test, it gets verified, and then it's released for sale and consumption.
Cool. Anything else that I missed that you wanted to mention about your company?
Yeah, one thing I'm really excited about, for me, the biggest vision I had for this company was I wanted to generate revenue that we can put back into sustainability and helping the planet out. So actually we've partnered with an organization called One Tree Planted. And every time a customer purchases from our website, a portion of the sale gets donated to that organization that plants trees worldwide. And that's something that's like very dear to me and our company because mushrooms eat trees and grow with them. So we're really excited about that. And as we grow, I'm really excited about other opportunities to find different ways to contribute more towards the ecology of the planet and just really want to be a leader in that.
Fantastic. Awesome. Cool. Well, I think that's a wrap.
Just say thank you so much for coming on. And all
yeah.
that.
Thank you guys so much.
No, not to them, to him.
Oh, sorry. I know. Well, thank you so much, Neil, for being on our channel and talking about your products. And we will, of course, link them below for anybody watching that wants to come check them out.
Cool. Thanks for having me. It's been an awesome experience.